There's something that I want to say about my father as a writer, which is that in all my years of being in publishing in general and a literary agent in particular for now 35 years, I've never known another nonfiction writer to write an entire book without ever wondering whether it would sell. And my favorite example of that, of his works, is The End of the World, which is a book of at least 500 or 600 pages, which takes you through great periods of history in which everyone thinks that the world is coming to an end, beginning with Alaric the Goth and moving on through the Albigensian Crusade and moving on to coping and dealing with addressing Auschwitz, and then ending at a nuclear station in the dead center of the Midwest of this country, which he visits on Mother's Day. But he wrote the whole book without ever wondering whether anybody else wanted it. And that really, really speaks to his loyalty to himself as a writer who uses the act of writing as an inquiry into what's interesting to him. And he actually sold that book for $1, and it's still in print. $1 is, by the way, the amount of money that has to reflect the exchange of a contract signing hands. And it's still in print, and it's a wonderful, wonderful book. He had on the side of his, in his office, on his office wall, he always wrote with an Olivetti manual. One of my favorite memories as a child is hearing the clickety-click-click of that typewriter. He wrote with his two index fingers, click, 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 late into the night, wine at the side, bad lighting, click, 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 click. And on the side of, on his wall, he had a quote from Benton and Bowles, which I think is an advertising firm, I don't even know whether they're still around, which he hated, which he used as his inspiration, which was, it's not creative unless it sells. And to him, the idea of commingling creativity with selling was abhorrent to him. And it just really, really speaks to his loyalty to himself as an historian, as a popular historian, as a cultural historian. It reflects his sense of himself as a writer, writing things that he just assumed that maybe somebody would want this. And when he died, I found a badly transcribed interview with my sister Liesl and my father, which was all about who he was. And one of the things he said in this interview, which I cannot for the life of me find now, is, I am my work, I am my stories, and all history is storytelling. And when my sister asked him what he wanted to write next, and this was about 2 years before he died, when he'd lost a lot of his eyesight, he had 70 book ideas, 70. And they were an extraordinary range. He hadn't dealt with Wilkie Collins. He hadn't dealt with the Victorians. And when Liesl said, rightly, millions of people have written about the Victorians, his answer was, but I haven't. And he had so many ideas, and it was a full range. It's in fact a range that is reflected in his already published work. But he had plans for himself that would have taken anybody right through the next decade and the next couple of decades, perhaps the next century.